Now, on Sunday, France will go to the polls in the first stage of the presidential election when 2 frontrunners will be chosen from 11 candidates. The favourites, according to the most recent polls, are Emmanuel Macron of the Social Liberal Party he founded, known as En Marche, and Marine Le Pen, who leads the Front National. There is speculation that she may receive a boost as a result of the terrorist attack that took place last night in the Champs-Élysées, and there's evidence that her popularity has risen among female voters. Well, Emily King spoke to women planning to vote in Mantes-la-Vie, a town 50 kilometres west of Paris.
Ouais, peut-être Marine Le Pen.
Et pourquoi?
Je sais pas. Elle m'inspire bien.
I find her inspiring. It's good to have women. We're getting a bit tired of men. That's it, really. I hope lots of things will change if she gets elected. She's a woman.
Marine Le Pen.
I think her programme for now is the best programme there is. Things like wanting to take away abortion rights, well, that's not good. But every politician has a good and a bad side. There'll always be things we can't accept. If I have to vote for someone, it will be her.
It's not because she's a woman, because she doesn't necessarily root for women. It's because she wants to change things and clean things up. Because right now, things are a bit of a mess.
So how important will the female vote be to Marine Le Pen? Nabila Ramdani is a journalist who joins us from Paris. Rainbow Murray is an associate professor at Queen Mary University in London who specialises in French and gender politics. Rainbow, how do you account for Le Pen's popularity among female voters?
She's been quite successful at bringing female voters over to the party. We have to be clear, she is still supported by more men than women, so it's not that she has a particular resonance with women. But this is a party that traditionally had a 2/3 male electorate, and she's been successful at narrowing that gap. And I think that's partly because some of the anti-women messages that came out of the party in the past have been softened and toned down by having a female leader, and others simply sound more credible. When they come from the voice of a woman, they sound less patronising and more authentic. So I think she's helped to change the party brand and make it less offensive to women.
Nabila, there are reports of 2 million more women getting behind her. How would you explain that number?
You know, we can accuse Marine Le Pen of a lot of things, but I don't think trying to use feminism for political purposes is actually one of them. I've followed her career for many years, and I have met her on a number of occasions, and she's never once used feminist rhetoric to make a point. On the contrary, she's very much part of a political dynasty built on hard right nationalism, and gender doesn't come into it. The Front National leadership is made up of a very tough very tough political bruisers ever since it was founded in 1972. And the founder and longtime leader of the party was, of course, Jean-Marie Le Pen, Marine's father, and a particularly macho character. So I think it's quite wrong to look at the FN or indeed at Marine Le Pen from a feminist perspective. She's never played on that.
What about those women, then, that we've just heard saying they find her inspiring?
Marine Le Pen does appeal to some women, not because of her alleged feminist rhetoric, she doesn't have any, but because some women adhere completely to Marine Le Pen's bigoted view of the world, and that includes her fierce rejection of immigrants, her hatred of most ethnic and religious groups, and especially Muslims, and her anti-EU projects, for example. So the appeal is purely on ideological grounds. Also, interestingly, and dare I say paradoxically, Marine Le Pen also gets some support from feminists, specifically because of her stances on Muslim women who wear the headscarf or the niqab, which covers the face too. And Marine Le Pen spends her time demonizing these women and Muslims and Islam in general. And as we know, French feminists are the only feminists in the world who oppose the freedom of Muslim women to wear what they like and indeed to worship.
Now, Rainbow, Nabila says she hasn't seen her use feminism for political purposes. Have you?
I have to a slight extent, yes. I agree that she generally doesn't fly the feminist flag, and even when she does, I would call it pseudo-feminism. I don't think she sincerely believes in the feminist cause. What she does do is try to dress up some of her more xenophobic stances as a form of feminism by saying that she wants to protect women's freedoms against an Islamisation of the state, against Sharia law. But that's not really about protecting women, not least because it portrays Muslim men as domineering and Muslim women as subordinate and incapable of making their own choices, which of course is not a feminist perspective. But she does try to portray it in that way in order to make the racism seem more acceptable, as well as broadening her appeal to women voters.
Nabila, how much would you say she has managed to, shall we use the word, detoxify the party her father led before her?
Well, I think it's a complete red herring to, or indeed misleading to think that Marine Le Pen has changed the party at all. She staged a schism, a fallout with her father, but one must remember that Jean-Marie Le Pen remains the honorary president of the Front National, and he has just poured some 6 million euros into funding her electoral campaign. And he took to Twitter recently to say that he was going to vote for his daughter. So there has been some very impressive investigative journalism carried out in France recently as well, which reveals that the inner circle of Marine Le Pen remains, intrinsically linked to Holocaust deniers, anti-Semites, and a whole range of detestable characters. So the party retains very distasteful links with racists and violent xenophobes.
Now, we know that there was another terrible terrorist attack last night in Paris, and as you said, she's said that Islam threatens women's rights. What impact will last night's events have on her chances, Nabila?
Well, what I can say is that Marine Le Pen has already held a press conference this morning in which she has tried to capitalize on the horror, just as she always does. And this morning she started ranting about the need to expel foreigners and indeed to stop all immigrants, whether legal or not, coming into France. And this is despite the fact that the overwhelming evidence points to a born and bred Frenchman and indeed a career criminal who was well known to the French authorities being responsible for this terrible act of terror. In that respect, I don't think that she will manage to, extend, her appeal to, the base that she already enjoys, which is made up of bigots, essentially, or people who are prepared to ignore the reality of what the National Front is all about.
Rainbow?
I would agree that it's not going to make a huge amount of difference. I think, unfortunately, we've already seen a number of terrorist attacks in France. I think to the extent that it's going to persuade people to vote for Marine Le Pen, it would already have done so. She has officially suspended her engagements today, but she's still campaigning. I think it is a red herring in the sense that there are bigger issues at stake here. The only thing that I could say is that it may concentrate the minds of those undecided voters when they go into the ballot box on Sunday, and they're currently about 30% of the electorate, so it's the undecideds who are going to determine the outcome.
So how likely, Rainbow, would you say she is to go through to the next round?
I'd say there's a good chance of going through to the second round. At the moment, there are 4 candidates within the margin of error. She's consistently placed amongst the top 2 in the polls, so the likelihood is that she will go through, although it's not guaranteed. If she does go through to the second round, I would say she's unlikely to win.
Nabila, would you say she will go through to the second round?
I think there's a good chance that Le Pen will get through to the second round simply because there's a strong body of French people who always vote National Front. The party has always enjoyed a solid vote of between 15 and 20% of the electorate, and they are emboldened by the Trump and Brexit factors. The reality, though, is that she has no chance of getting above the 50% she needs to become a president. France is in the end a moderate country. People like clean-cut politicians, and they will make sure that she doesn't become president of France.
But supposing she goes through together with Emmanuel Macron, who is quite new, founded a new party, very young. If it were the two of them, who would France go for, Nabila?
Well, definitely Emmanuel Macron. I mean, he's the luckiest man in France at the moment. He's not even 40. He was expected to do well, coming third or fourth and perhaps getting some political experience for an election in 5 or 10 years. But in fact, Fillon's destruction and the endemic weakness within the traditional left, and especially the Socialist Party, has opened up the whole election to him. And his most brilliant move, with hindsight, was to resign from François Hollande's government as economy minister and distance himself from the Socialist Party. That took a lot of guts and seemingly gave him no base at all, but he has now created one of his own in his movement. And dare I say, he's a fantastic election and indeed intellectual property. He's telegenic, charismatic, and he appeals to people across the political spectrum. And, young people who play up to the media age tend to do well at elections, particularly when they combine a bit of showbiz glamour with some serious thinking and obvious intellect.
Rainbow, who are you putting your money on? Are you for Macron as well?
I am also for Macron, but with a note of caution that at the moment it's still very difficult to tell who's going to get through. But I would absolutely agree, if it is Macron against Le Pen, then he's going to beat her hands down.
Rainbow Murray, Nabila Ramdani, we will wait and see. Thank you very much indeed for being with us.